Welcome back and many thanks for staying with us on the #1 breakfast show in the country, Morning at NTV. Captain Jonah Jackson Bakaliwira, he is the Assistant Commissioner in the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. He's also in charge of national guidance within that ICT and National Guidance Ministry. Very good morning, sir.
Good morning, Comrade.
Patriotism is a big issue in Uganda as we speak.
That's right.
Little to know few Ugandans, 80%
Yes.
actually do know the national symbols, the national values. Why is that so? But let's first break down what are the national symbols and what are the national values, and why is it important for every Ugandan to know what they are?
Maybe before we go into that one, we need to understand where all this one comes from.
Indeed.
Yeah. Uganda is a country which is sovereign in itself, but we can use our national constitution of the Republic of Uganda to kickstart our conversation. Because in the National Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, we talk about, Article 8A talks about that Uganda shall be governed based on national interests and common good, which are enshrined in the Constitution of Uganda in the national objectives and directive principles of state policy. And now to do that one, within that, they also, Article 8 talks about the national symbols that must be understood by all Ugandans as a guide to make the Ugandans appreciate what they stand for, because the national symbols stand and represent the values and norms that a country stands for, that can guide you into creating that character that will help you appreciate your country much better and be able to defend its interests and be able to fight for it, serve it diligently, and be able to achieve the national common good that's there by Ugandans. So I think that's the point of departure that should guide our conversation. But of course, when you talk about Article 8, we talk about our national symbols. We can pull out what is most critical. That's the national anthem. National anthem was passed by when we went into independence, and they passed it in Parliament. And Ugandans agree that yes, this is what we must attest to, because when the national symbols brings out the inner self of what Uganda stands for, it stands as a creed which everybody should attest to.
But according to Makerere University, Ugandans do not know the national anthem. Few people could go to the first stanza and finish it. Or Uganda may go to Poldi. You have people saying, or Uganda may go to Poti. I mean, what is happening, Jonah?
That's true, because we must define the reality. Our reality is, yes, the symbols were put in place. Ugandans are supposed to understand them and then walk the talk of what the symbols. But the reality is that the symbols are not understood. That's the reality.
But why is that the case? Close to 40 years in power, Ugandans do not know the national symbols and the national values. Why is that so?
That's why we must understand our history.
Indeed.
Maybe because of our history, the turbulence and distortion that have gone through did not give the space for people to understand the symbols and be able to walk by their talk.
Indeed.
So when you look at our history right from independence, we went through many political upheavals and constitutional methods of leadership all through, from 1986, I mean from 1962 to 1986, we had so many changes of government.
Indeed.
So I think we missed a point in concentrating of anchoring these symbols to shape the value system of a society. And by 1986, still, the government was addressing those historical distortions. And when the Constitution was framed in 1995, I was happy that now, and all Ugandans should understand that at that time in history, the question of now putting vehicles for anchoring the national symbols, anchoring patriotism, were enshrined in the Constitution. When you look at
article, that is National Objective 29.
National Objective 29, yes. They said it's the duty of every Ugandan to be patriotic. So where they bring it and enshrining it in the Constitution? Because the framers realized that now, somewhere along the way, Ugandans lost that path of anchoring patriotism.
Indeed.
So when they put it there, now it's the duty of the actors today to ensure that operationalized, and they put avenues in place that are going to open up every Ugandan's eyes.
Through civic education.
Through civic education and other windows. So that's where we must concentrate now our energy to make sure that these windows, these vehicles that are going to entrench and deepen Uganda's appreciation of patriotism and the ingredients within patriotism where understanding patriotism also is a key factor.
I'll tell you one thing, Mr. Bakaliwira, Captain Bakaliwira. I myself, as Bromley Busiku, I did not get my patriotism from media or from secondary school or from university. It was at the primary level. All that was inculcated at the primary level. The spirit of patriotism. And I could have my contestations with President Yoweri Museveni, but if Joe Biden were to attack Uganda, I'd be the first person to remove my shoes, remove my tie, get to the front line to defend the sovereignty of Uganda. I wouldn't be protecting President Yoweri Museveni, but the sovereignty of this country. But how many young people understand that in this country? Because they are full of anger. The first person that comes and says, I have a solution to remove President Museveni, they'll follow that person. Is it because we are missing that spirit of patriotism, Pan-Africanism?
Yeah, that's right. You say good, you say that you got your induction to it at the primary school. So that was a deliberate move.
Indeed.
And that one does not is not in contradiction with the government of the Republic of Uganda. We say that let us take back patriotism into the society, but using the vehicle of schools as one of the entry points amidst others. Because the school system is what accommodates most of our young population. And then our young population is the one which knows where the character formation must be done. So when you say it is the primary school, you got it. I think that primary school was doing the right thing, apart from other areas like the family. But in terms of socialization, it is the school system that we socialize and get these values inculcated into us.
And do you think we can go back to that system of early childhood development when it comes to patriotism?
We must do that. We must do that. When we do it, early childhood development, starting from the family level, actually that's where even patriotism naturally must start when one is born. But then at a structural level, when we go into the school systems, that's where now people are exposed to knowledge. So this knowledge of love for the country, patriotism, should be vehemently attended to and addressed at that level, so that now the inculcation of these values, the patriotic values, start from the best of character formation, and they continue growing upwards from primary, secondary, university, tertiary institutions, and name it.
Away from the usage of the media, Captain Bakaliwira, how do you plan to reach the young man, the young woman on the streets right now who is so angry? Any solution that is brought to them, they're willing to go with it. Peaceful protests and so forth. Ban the country just to see President Yoweri Museveni gone. What do you plan to do to change the mindset of these individuals? Keep in mind that they are not in the school setting. Yes.
Of course, that's what I brought in the school setting as one of the bigger areas of socialization.
Yes, it is, but most of the people who are prone or susceptible to radicalism are people outside of the school setting.
Exactly. While we are doing that, doesn't mean that we are arresting other areas of the people outside school.
I hear you.
We have got plans and departments in this country that must address that population outside the school, so that we can even be proactive, so that we protect them from narratives of radicalization. Because when you look at Uganda, there are those elements who are trying to propagate that narrative of radicalization, negativity, and all that kind of thing, thinking that the question for Uganda is His Excellency Dr. Museveni, that when they move him away, they would have now solved their problem. They don't go further to appreciate what His Excellency Dr. Museveni has put in place to make sure that all Ugandans walk into the direction of achieving the national vision, and make sure that now people appreciate the component of patriotism as a vehicle to achieving.
Of course, we can only achieve the national vision if the Ugandans do know the national values. Please, in a minute, break down the national values for our people who are watching.
Yeah, when we talk about the national values, let us talk about patriotism itself. Patriotism is a very critical national value that we must all cherish.
Pan-Africanism.
Pan-Africanism is a national value that we must all cherish. We must also look at now elements of how do we relate, what are the public relations?
Unity.
We must have unity. We must be able, because it's also entrenched in the Constitution, we must be humane in ourselves.
Peaceful.
Peace. We must have peace. We must love our country.
Freedom.
All those other tenets.
Honor of God.
Exactly. Which are, in the essence, enshrined and entailed in our national anthem. Because we talk about, oh Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our in thy hand. We are talking about now unity. We are talking about working with other people, within ourselves, working with our country, integration.
We'll stand together against the external forces.
External forces, yes. So those are the values that we need to look at and be able to crystallize within the border politic of Ugandans.
Captain Jonah Jackson Bakaliwira, the Assistant Commissioner in the ICT and National Guidance Ministry. He's in charge of national guidance. And many thanks for having made the time to speak to Morning at NTV. Young people are out there not knowing what is happening in their country, and they're listening to just anyone who is willing to offer solutions. I believe this is a time more than ever that government has to step up and go and meet these young people and explain to them what is happening and why they have to be patriotic and in the spirit of Pan-Africanism.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir.
Exactly. And very good enough, at least the leadership distilled those pillars that we must be able to follow. Patriotism, Pan-Africanism, democracy, and socio-economic transformation as drivers to our transformation agenda.
Jonah Jackson Bakaliwira, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.